Heart at the Hazbin Hotel, Chapter 19. Now with the dear boy back, how will everyone react? Hint, Lizzie won't like it. Chapter 19. The radio demon returns. Third person point of view. Alistair stayed awake the whole time the extermination went on. He never slept, really. He had to keep his eyes out for anything that might come in or attack. He also kept awake to keep an eye on Hart. He still had that urge to protect her, especially after earlier this morning. He never expected she would do that. Alistair looked down at the girl who was still curled up at his side and sound asleep, her arms tight around him. He had a clawed hand running on the top of her head, petting her to keep the girl calm in her sleep, his other hand resting on her arm that was wrapped around his waist. He deep down really missed her dearly and regrets leaving her for so long. He should have come back sooner, but even he was fooled by her masks. He kept his eye on her from time to time when he was away. He also went off and did his own thing as well. If he did come back to her, he had to be ready again for what was in store, so that he wouldn't be scared anymore about the idea of sex. He had friends that he sought out to help him mentally with this while he was away from her. Would he be ready? Only time would tell. Alistair loved to watch people squirm, fail, and make themselves fall into a pit of despair. For Hart, though, he hated seeing her sad and depressed the way she was. He wanted her to move on from him, to be happy. He thought that if he went away, she would be fine. He soon realized it was the complete opposite. That's why he led Russ to her. Russ didn't realize it, obviously, but Alistair made Shadows convince Russ that whole day to go to that restaurant on Hart's first day. He thought Russ was a nice guy. He wanted Hart to fall for him, help her out, and hopefully heal. That wasn't the case. She still loved him, even though he has been gone for so long. Russ fell for her, but she never opened her heart back up, even to a demon as charming as Russell was. She waited for him to return. He may have told her he was coming back, but he never planned to. When he realized that she never really moved on from him, he planned to come back, after the extermination, to surprise her. That plan didn't go as well as he thought either. He never would have thought that she would go to a suicide mission in the city to be killed by an exterminator angel, to end her life. He realized then that it was a mistake to do all this. He felt stupid for thinking this would work out well. Secretly, this whole time, though, Alistair missed her. He missed her so much. He couldn't even count the amount of times he wished he could go to her side to comfort her, make her tears go away, make sure she was happy again. One time, his shadows actually held him back, because he specifically told them to hold him back if he ever tried something. His shadows watched over her still, but not all the time. It would just be a quick pop-in to see how she was doing, then they would update him. Sometimes he would even go himself. The radio demon couldn't break away from the wolf-dragon-demon girl either. He still loved her. He would never stop loving her. When his shadow came back to report that she had gone missing from her hotel room during the extermination, for once in his life he was afraid and panicked. He had his shadows spread out everywhere to look for her as fast as possible. He never thought she would go this far. When a shadow finally found her, he rushed to her side. When he saw her kneeling there in the street before an angel, he knew she was looking for one on purpose, and not by accident. He was angered. He had to protect her. He couldn't let her go through with this action. He would have this guilt on his shoulders for the rest of his life. To have the one person he ever truly loved die by the hand of an angel, he wouldn't be able to forgive himself. Alistair gave out a sigh. He had a lot of explaining to do. He hoped that she would let him do so. Using his powers, he kept Hart in place, and he snuck out from under her, so that she wouldn't be disturbed by his movement. He gently put her down on the bed. Remembering she still had the doll he made her, he used his powers to make it appear from out of the bathroom where she left it, and he placed it in her arms just in case. She shifted a moment, but then went to hugging the doll. Alistair looked at the clock on the bedside table. Only 5 minutes more, and it would be over. He went to the window and looked out into the ruined city. The bright red sky was filled with smoke and fire as blood ran down the streets. Another extermination can finally be over with. Alistair grabbed one of the boards on the window and pulled it off. Then another. And then another. Till the whole window was free from the boards. It made some noise, but Alistair kept checking over at the bed, and Hart was still sound asleep. It did, however, wake somebody else up. Lizzie heard the boards being pulled off the window. Her eyes snapped open and she sat up straight in the tub. She cleared the sleep from her eyes and looked around. She noticed the Hart was gone. Lizzie was unaware of the time, so she thought the extermination was still going on and Hart was missing. She jumped out of the tub and quickly opened the bathroom door. "Hart, where did you—" she started to say as she walked out of the bathroom, but she stopped herself when she saw who was standing at the window. Alistair. Lizzie's ears went back as she started to growl deep in her throat at him, slanting her eyes in anger. Then on cue, a firework shot off into the sky and exploded. Charlie was letting everyone know in the city that the extermination was over. The deer demon turned around and faced her. "Ah, Lizzie, my good lady, it's nice to see you again," he greeted her with his normal wide smile. "Give me one good fucking reason not to rip you apart," Lizzie growled lowly at him. "Well, I could give you a list if you like," Alistair asked, putting his hands behind his back. "A list? Oh, I could give you a list, all right. One that tells me to kick the living shit out of you." Lizzie bared her teeth at him. "She heard a lot from you. Why did you come back?" Lizzie asked through her teeth. "I came back when I was needed. She needed me," Alistair answered calmly. "When you were needed? That's bullshit," Lizzie shouted, walking up close to the deer demon. "Please, no shouting, dear. Some are still asleep," Alistair said, gesturing to Hart in bed. Lizzie pricked her ears up and stopped her growling. She looked over and saw Hart asleep on the bed. She quickly snapped back to Alistair, growling again. "I could care less. She should be awake to see this," Lizzie said, stepping closer to him. "She knows I'm back. I found her last night, in the streets," Alistair told her. Lizzie's ears went up in surprise. "Say what? You're telling me she snuck out last night?" "Indeed she did. Right under your nose," Alistair said as he put a finger out and poked Lizzie on the nose. "Don't fucking touch me, you bastard," Lizzie yelled, smacking his hand away. "You're a real asshole for showing up." Alistair was unfazed by Lizzie's actions and kept his hand in the air that she smacked. "I am, but as far as I'm concerned, she wants me here." Unknown to the two, Hart was slowly starting to wake up, mainly from the yelling, but mainly because her sleepiness was wearing off. "No, she doesn't," Lizzie growled. "On the contrary, I think she does." Alistair fixed his monocle. "She didn't tell you what she did last night. I know what she did." "What do you know that I don't?" Lizzie wondered. "Your sister was almost killed by an angel last night. I was there to save her," Alistair told her. He was still calm in the conversation. You're lying." Lizzie took a step back, surprised. "She wouldn't do that." "She did, and it was on purpose," Alistair corrected her. Lizzie took a moment and thought, but then realized it was him that caused her to do that. "It's your fault, then." Lizzie bared her teeth again. "She wanted to die. The way she acted before the extermination explains it. When she found out you weren't coming back, she balled her clawed hands in the fist. She almost died, and it's all your fault." Lizzie pulled an arm back and punched Alistair right in the face. Hart's point of view. My sleep was wearing off. Finally, I hoped that when I woke up, the extermination would be over. As I slowly started to come out of my sleep, I heard someone. My ears started to perk around to listen. I started to come out of my sleepiness, and the yelling became clear. It was Lizzie. But why was she yelling? I also felt that Alistair was not in bed with me anymore. I lifted my head from the pillow and rubbed sleep from my eyes. I blinked, and the figures in the room became clear, my ears moving at the sounds. Alistair stood near the window as Lizzie stood in front of him yelling. She was angry. What for, though? I was still tired, so my brain didn't fully understand what was going on. Maybe it was because I kept what I did last night a secret for too long. I sat up more in bed, putting myself onto one of my elbows. I was just about to say something to interrupt Lizzie's yelling, but what she did next, I didn't even expect. She almost died, and it's all your fault! Lizzie pulled an arm back and then punched Alistair right in his face. I gasped and jumped out of bed. My ears shut up in worry and surprise. Lizzie, what the fuck is your problem? I yelled. I ran up to Alistair, who just stood there with his face away and down from Lizzie punching him. Hart, what the fuck? Why are you worried about him? Lizzie asked as she yelled at me. I ignored her. Al, are you okay? I asked, worried, putting my hand on his arm as my ears went down a little bit. He picked up his head, and she had really punched him good. There was already a mark forming on his cheek and had a small cut on his lip with blood. He wiped the blood away with the sleeve of his long shirt. I deserved that, Alistair said as he started to laugh. I was taken aback. What? He was saying he deserved to be punched? You bet your ass you did. After all that shit you put my sister through, I think you deserve more than just one punch, Lizzie growled, pointing her clawed finger at us. I stood with my arms out in front of Alistair. No more punching. My ears falling flat as I gave her a growl as well. I heard Alistair's laugh die behind me. Just be lucky you are still alive, girl. You have to remember who I still am, Alistair said evilly. You get one, and that's all you get. Plus I'm keeping my promise to your sister, so be glad. Lizzie stopped at those words. Alistair wasn't wrong. She was lucky to still be alive after doing something like that to him. He was still the radio demon, the most powerful being in all of hell, and an overlord. Plus, I did tell Alistair to never harm my sister, so he was keeping his promise. Everyone just calm the hell down, I said with my arms out. Hart, tell me the truth. What did you do last night? Lizzie asked, walking closer to me. I sighed and put my arms down and then wrapped them around myself, my ears falling to the side as my tail wrapped around me. To be honest with you, sister, I took a pause. I tried to die last night. I snuck out of the hotel into the city to find an exterminator angel. Why? What made you do this? Lizzie wondered with worry in her voice, her ears going to the side as well. I sighed. The reason for me still being here in hell was gone. What was the point of living here any longer if the reason I was staying here wasn't with me anymore? I could see the sadness in her eyes. What about your friends? What about me? Don't we matter? I felt tears prick the corner of my eyes. Of course you do. I thought of them. I thought of you all the time. But they weren't the glue that held me together. The tears fell. They were all pieces. Everything was just falling off without it. It was just crumbling and falling apart. I then felt Alistair wrap his arms around me, comforting me. Without Al, I didn't feel whole here. Lost. Alone. I took a breath. So I figured, what's the point? If I was just going to keep feeling like this, then I don't think I want to be here anymore. I don't want to feel that way. Lizzie just stared at me. He's still the reason behind it all, though. Aren't you angry with him? There's no reason to show my anger. All that anger went away last night. He came back to me. That's what I care about. It wasn't when I would have liked, but he still came back. I took my arms and unwrapped them for myself and placed my hands over top of Alistair's arms that were still wrapped around me. My ears went up slightly. He saved me last night. That showed me that he still cared for me. If he didn't, he would have just let me die on that street. It proved to me that I should never have doubted him. Alistair leaned down and kissed the tip of my ear. "I would have never forgave myself if I didn't save you," he whispered to me. Lizzie seemed confused, but also still angered. She sighed in frustration and her ears went up, but they were backwards. "I don't know what I would have done without you here, Hart. I'm just glad you're safe. Just promise me not to do that again. Don't be Victor." She put her ears down in sadness. I nodded. "I promise you, Lizzie, I won't go out on extermination day again." I gave her a smile. Lizzie nodded. "Good." I then saw that she was becoming nervous. I'm going down to head to the lobby, see if Charlie's down there yet." I didn't get to say anything before Lizzie turned and quickly walked out of the door and closed it behind her. I just leaned into Alistair with a small sigh of relief. "I'm sorry she punched you. Are you okay?" "I'll be fine, darling," Alistair answered me. "Thank you, Al, for saving me last night. I realize now that I was just so crazy and clouded with depression. I never thought of others' feelings fully." Alistair leaned his head down and touched his small deer horns to my dragon ones. "Nothing will harm you, not while I'm around," Alistair reassured me. "I'd save you 1,000 times over from all the angels if I had to." I just felt comfort wash over me, the content I loved to feel when I was with him in his arms. I took a deep breath in and slowly let it out, my hand unconsciously rubbing up and down Alistair's arm. "I'm just glad to be back in your arms again," I whispered. "I missed you so much, my great buck." "I missed you as well, my little wolf," Alistair said lovingly. "I'm glad to hold you again. You have no idea how hard it was for this whole time I was gone not to." Alistair lifted his head up from mine. "I'm sure you would like an explanation," he asked. I turned around in his arms. "You don't have to tell me." "But I feel you deserve to know," Alistair told me. I looked at him sternly. "If that's so, then I'm not the only one that deserves to know." "I know. Charlie does as well," Alistair realized. "That's right. So why don't we go down into the lobby as well and go look for her?" I suggested. Alistair gave me a small sigh, but nodded. "That's a good idea." He then pulled me closer to himself. "But first," he leaned his head down slightly, "I'd like to do something to you that I greatly miss doing." He gave a devilish smirk. I then smirked as well. "Oh, what might that be?" I had a feeling I knew what it was. Alistair said nothing else. All he did was lean down and place a kiss on my lips. We stayed like that for a few moments until Alistair wanted to give me more. He licked my bottom lip, asking me for entry, and I gladly opened my mouth as he slipped his tongue inside, letting him explore what hasn't been in a long time. Lucifer, I missed him kissing me like this. My body hasn't felt this way in a long time. A tingle of excitement went up my spine. I wrapped my arms around him and gripped the back of his jacket. Never would I try to let this man go. His hands traveled from my sides up to my back and back down to lay on my hips. I haven't had this urge in so long. Not since he left. It was the main reason he left, so I didn't even want to think of doing such a thing. He still had this effect on me, though, teasing my body to make me feel this way. I had that sexual attraction, and he triggered it right back up. He pulled apart a moment to take a breath, but he came right back to kiss me again, more forcefully, but I could tell he was putting a lot of passion into it. He missed me, and it made me happy that I had this effect on him. I'm just going to put a small warning here that, in this scene that there's just some small touching going on, but nothing major, but I'm just putting a warning here anyway. What he did next, I never thought he would do. He took his right hand off my hip to travel it slowly up my side and then cup my breast in his hand. Then he laid his full hand on top of it and squeezed it very lightly. The feeling that went through me I never felt before. I let out a small breath between our kiss as my ears stood up straight. Not only in surprise, but out of a small pleasure I felt from it. Where did this confidence come from for him to do this? I didn't mind it at all, but it was also new and different from him that it confused me. It was a whole new level of Alistair I didn't know existed. Okay here from that scene. He pulled away from our kiss and dropped his hand from my chest. I almost looked embarrassed from it. Where did this come from, I asked him, looking at him sternly. Sorry, I didn't mean to surprise you, Alistair said. I didn't mind it at all. I actually liked it, I told him as I felt a small blush come to my face. Alistair let out a chuckle. Little bit at a time, my love. I did a lot while I was away, and making sure I wouldn't be afraid to do things with you was one of them. Al, you didn't have to do that for me. I put my ears to the side. He placed a hand on my cheek, but I wanted to. I feel that if I wanted to be more confident in our relationship, I better get over my fears. Although, I feel you will be the only person I will ever feel this confident about doing this for. I leaned into his touch. Little at a time, then. That's fine by me, I said with a smile. Alistair leaned close to my face again and had a devilish smile on his face. That was only the beginning, my darling, he said in a low, seductive voice. I felt a chill run up my spine. I felt goosebumps. My blush got darker on my face. I still had to remember Alistair had to be the one to take the steps. I didn't want to push him like he did before. If he was willing to explore new things, then I still wanted to take it at his pace. Him touching me like that was just a start. He leaned back up. Now, how about we go down to the lobby and find Charlie? Yeah, let's head down, I agreed, my blush not leaving my face. Alistair laughed still at my flustered state. He walked out of my room and down the hall, but Alistair stopped when he got to his room, the door slightly ajar from when I left out of his window. I saw what you did that day, Alistair said, breaking the silence as we looked at the room. My ears went back in shame. I'm sorry you had to see me like that. I don't like to be angry and be in my dragon form. Plus, I apologize for wrecking your room while you were gone. Alistair went to the door and pushed it open, and he stood in the doorway. It's all right, my dear. I can understand that you were angry with me, questioning my actions. He walked in a little further and looked around the room. They at least did a good job of cleaning it up. Sorry they couldn't fix your music box, I said as I walked up behind him, rubbing my arm. I broke it really bad, Charlie said. Alistair turned around to face me. I can easily replace that. So don't you worry so much. Alistair took a step closer to me. Although, I think you have something of mine that Angel found. I would like those back. I looked away from him and at the floor. I had them at my house, but they got damaged pretty bad when I stepped on them. I can fix a few folds and rips. I can handle that, Alistair reassured me. Although, I know there are some things that can't be replaced, nor can they be fixed. Alistair took one of his clawed fingers and put it under my chin, making me look up at him. Like you. Me? I questioned. Alistair nodded and took his finger from my chin and laid that hand on my cheek. You are my light, little wolf. I don't know what I would do without you. He leaned his head down to lay his forehead against mine. I would have never forgiven myself if I didn't save you in time. You are something that cannot be replaced. Al, you know just what to say to make my heart flutter. I miss that. I said with a happy chuckle that escaped my lips as I smiled. I can at least be fixed. In time, I added. That's true. I hope I can help you, though, with that. Alistair leaned down and laid a small kiss on my lips. He pulled away from me and moved his hand to my shoulder. Come now, let's go see Charlie. I nodded and we both turned to walk out of the room. Alistair closed the door behind us. We walked down the hallway. Alistair still had his arm wrapped on my shoulder as we walked. I didn't want the feeling of him to leave me. I wanted him to hold me forever. I was afraid to leave his side. What if he disappeared? My mind wouldn't be cruel, would it? Soon we got to the top of the stairs to look down at the lobby from the railing. Soon we spotted Charlie as some demons were walking up to her and talking to thank her and make sure everyone was still here. I looked around until I spotted Lizzie, who was at the bar, drinking a beer and talking to Husk. I'm sure her fight with Alistair really got her annoyed. Maggie was over by the kitchen to help demons put some leftover food back. I didn't see Nifty, nor did I see Angel or Russ yet, but the two were probably enjoying their time together. Charlie didn't notice us yet, so we walked down the stairs and walked up to her. Her back was to us. Alistair let go and then walked up to Charlie. He reached down and grabbed her hand and then twirled her around. He stopped her by wrapping his hand around her shoulders. Good to see you, my demon belle, Alistair greeted. Alistair! Charlie's face lit up with excitement as she had a big smile on her face looking at the deer demon. You are back! Charlie surprised Alistair as she jumped and wrapped her arms around his neck. Alistair stood stiff from the action, but he soon calmed and pushed her away after a few seconds. I noticed Maggie walk up by us, and she just had an annoyed look on her face as her arms were crossed. I didn't want to believe Lizzie when she told me. I was thinking it was part of a dream she had or something. Charlie laughed. Now I can see it's true. Alistair gave a small chuckle as well. I'm sure you'd like me to explain my absence for so long. You don't have to explain if you don't want to, Al, Charlie told him. But I feel I must, Alistair said with a small bow. Well, if you insist, let's go sit on the couch then, Charlie said as he gestured to the couch by the fireplace. We walked over to the couch. Lizzie stayed at the bar. Alistair sat in the middle, and I sat on one side of him, while Charlie sat on the other side, and Vaggie next to Charlie. As we got comfortable, Alistair went on to explain what went on and what he did while he was gone. He explained how he never really left. He had stayed hidden in darkness, having shadows watch over everything. How he went to visit some friends that he didn't explain too much about to help him with his personal matters, mentally helping him as well with their methods. He explained leading Russ to me to make me forget him. But me not falling for Russ was not on his accord. That didn't matter now, though, of course, since the snake demon fell for angel dust. To hear him explain how even though he was gone, he never fully left. That means he watched me break down, watched me cry, but at the same time, watched me sing every night when I worked. He tucked me in bed when the covers fell off me when I slept, and even watched me at my dance lessons. He was there, but I never knew it. He still cared, and I doubted him every moment. He said he never planned to come back, but after seeing everything that took place with Russ, he did. He said he realized that I would never move on from him. At the same time, though, he never moved on from me. I planned to surprise everyone by coming back after the extermination, but that didn't go as planned, Alistair said. Charlie tilted her head to the side in confusion. What made you change your mind? I raised my hand shyly. That would be my fault, I said. Everyone glanced over to me. You? Why? I held my hands together and started to twiddle my fingers. Well, I, went out during the extermination last night. You what? Charlie and Vaggie both exclaimed. I flinched at their reaction, but I was also expecting it. Let me explain my actions. I then went on to tell the girls what I told Lizzie and Alistair earlier. How Alistair was my glue, but I had fallen apart without him. Then, how I snuck out last night to find an angel to kill me. So, while I was out there, Alistair came to save me. They all looked at Alistair. You saved her from an angel? That's pretty nuts to think, Al, Charlie said. Alistair sat back on the couch at this point. He looked at the fireplace, the flames dancing across his face. I had to. If I wouldn't have, I never would have forgave myself. He then took his arm and wrapped it around my shoulders. One angel was nothing for me. Even if there were more, I'd kill them all or die trying to save her. Alistair then pulled me close to his side, almost like it was a comfort for him. I followed with his gesture and leaned against his side, enjoying the touch. Well, Alistair, I think you deserve a big thank you, Vaggie said. I agree. Thank you for saving Hart, for saving my friend, Charlie added. I'm sorry for all this. I just didn't want to feel that way anymore, I sighed. It's okay, Hart. We understand to a point. We are just glad you're alive and okay, Charlie told me. I'm better now than I ever have, I said with a smile and leaned more into Alistair's side. I saw Charlie and Vaggie smile in the corner of my vision. So, what do you plan to do now? Vaggie asked. I honestly don't know. I guess I had to figure that out, I said, looking down at my lap. Lizzie then walked up beside the couch. Hart, we still need to clean up our stuff in your room. Will you come up and help me? I looked up at her. Oh yeah, let me help you out with that. I unwrapped Alistair's arm from myself and stood up. Good. After that, we can head home, Lizzie said and started to walk up the stairs. Al, why don't you stay down here and catch up with the girls? I told him. That's perfectly fine with me, dearest. Do what you need, but I'm walking home with you, Alistair said to me sternly. I smiled. I'm looking forward to it. I then went and followed Lizzie up the steps. She was way ahead of me, so she got to my room before I did. I walked into the bathroom and picked up the blankets off the floor as she folded the ones she had in the tub. I know you're glad he's back, but I feel you shouldn't forgive him so easily, Lizzie said, breaking the silence as we worked. I sighed. I know, but I honestly don't feel mad. Not yet, Lizzie corrected. I'll see, but for now, I'm just enjoying the moment, I told her. If you say so, Lizzie folded a blanket. He isn't staying at the house, by the way. He can visit, but he can't stay. I was mad that she didn't want Alistair over, but she was stubborn. Plus, technically the house was hers now, so I wanted to obey her rules. Fine. I'm not fully sure what I'm doing yet anyway, I told her as I folded. Whether or not I should stay home or come back to the hotel. Do what you think is best, Lizzie told me. Wherever Alistair goes, I will try and follow, I answered. Lizzie looked at me. Just don't follow him too deep, she warned. I was silent at her words. What did she mean? Alistair wouldn't do anything crazy. At least, I hope he wouldn't. Not with my life on the line. Me and Lizzie finished cleaning up and put everything in a nice pile so they could collect it. I went to the bed and grabbed my Alistair doll out from the covers. I held it to my chest. I then followed Lizzie out of the room and down the hallway, back into the lobby. When we got to the top of the steps, the girls were still talking to Alistair. They were laughing. This time, though, I noticed that Angel was down by the couch and Russ was behind him. It seemed like they came down and Angel was interested in talking to the deer demon. Russ seemed nervous, though, being near him. This was probably the first time that Russ has ever seen the radio demon up close. We walked down the steps and up to the group. Seems like you guys are enjoying yourself, I said with a smile as I stood in front of them. We all missed Al, Angel said, punching Alistair in the arm lightly. Alistair made a static noise at that. Don't do that again, he warned in a deep voice. Russ wrapped his arms around Angel and held him. Russ was afraid of Alistair, I could tell, and he wanted to keep control of Angel. I gave a small chuckle. Oh, Hal, I know you weren't hurt, Angel. Try me, Alistair said as he looked at me through slanted eyes. I just stood my ground and continued to smile. I held my doll still close to myself. We're leaving, Lizzie told him. It was wonderful to have you guys back here, Charlie said as she got up from the couch. She walked to me and gave me a hug. I'm happy that you invited us, Charlie. It was nice to be back in the hotel, I told her. You can come back any time, Charlie said, smiling. Thanks. I turned to Alistair. Al, are you going to walk home with us? Of course, my dear. Alistair stood up from the couch. I would be happy to. Alistair went up next to me and then wrapped his arm around my waist. I'll see all you guys later. It was nice to see everyone is still here, I told everyone. And we're still glad to have you around, Hart, Maggie said. I looked away, embarrassed. You can thank Alistair for that, leaning more into the deer demon next to me. And we do, Angel said. I don't know what we would do without you, girl. I felt a blush. I'm glad to have friends like you. I'm sorry for doing something so selfish. It's okay, babe, Angel reassured me. You were in a dark spot, and we couldn't really do anything to help. And I feel anything we would have done wouldn't have helped, Russell added as he still had his arms around Angel. I was, and I'm sorry. I apologize. I wasn't expecting it, but Angel, Russ, Charlie, and Maggie walked up to me. Alistair stepped back and unwrapped his arm from my waist as they walked up. They all went and hugged me together. I was so happy. I had amazing friends, and I was glad they cared about me. It was honestly too good to be true. I started to cry. I don't know what I would do without you guys, I cried. They all pulled away from the hug and just gave me a smile. After that, we said our goodbyes. Lizzie and Alistair and I all walked out of the hotel together, and we walked home. My hand was holding Alistair as we walked down the sidewalk. I was so happy. Alistair was back in my life. What happened between us and what we went through, I never want to experience again. It was a dark time, especially for me. We had a rough spot. It was our first, and I know we'll hit more along the way. I was just going to appreciate the now and not worry too much about the future or the past. Just live in the present. Whatever happens, though, I plan to face it with Alistair by my side. We will face everything that hell must throw at us. Together. End of chapter 19. Will I finish this story? Absolutely not. Do I have more in store? Absolutely yes. Stay tuned. Where will this story go next? Till next time, guys.